You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hey folks, it's Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Iron Lady sings it. That makes it official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show's family loves you, but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as, the judge did last week when he gave that ankle bracelet monitor to you. But don't worry, you'll get the other 4 off later on, I don't know, a few years or something. Just try and be better. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. I think that joke came because I saw a gal who was getting married and she had an ankle monitor on under the dress. It was pretty funny. I think that's where we drew from that well on that joke as I stalled to find the next tab. We have an amazing young man on the show with us today. We're going to be talking about some fun but some serious matter and how to advocate yourself in our healthcare system. Wait, can we actually call it a healthcare system? Wouldn't that imply that it was healthy? Anyway, he is the author of the latest book out September 13th, 2022, called Up for the Fight: How to Advocate for Yourself as You Battle Cancer. From a 5-time survivor, Bill C. Potts joins us on the show today. We'll be getting into some of his knowledge, insights, and how he might be able to help you or a loved one or someone you know have the best chance for survival, as it were. He is an entrepreneur, a leader, Ironman triathlete, and 5-time cancer survivor. Bill C. Potts has waged a 20-year battle against the disease. In this valuable patient and caregiver guide, he shares his personal cancer story and those of others, outlining everything you need to know to take on this fight. Welcome to the show. How are you, Bill?
Chris, I am great. The luckiest guy I know. So thanks for having me on your show.
There you go. 5-time cancer survivor. That sounds like an SNL bit. Maybe you should just stop going to cancer awards. And, we don't need any 6 or 7 out of you. Maybe you should just cap it at 5 is what I'm saying.
Boy, I tell you, I'd love to do that. Already working on number 6, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that's all right. We'll get that one handled. It's I'm not too concerned about number 6. That's prostate cancer. It's the other ones that I got to keep an eye on.
Oh, there you go. Well, give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside this book?
Yeah, this book is like what to expect when you're expecting, but for cancer patients. It's the book I wish somebody else had written for me as I went through this journey. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I accidentally became an expert in cancer. And kind of the genesis of this book, it wasn't my idea. It was September 17th, 2020, and I woke up from surgery to remove a painful tumor below my right hip. I'd had thyroid cancer in 2002, lymphoma, 2008, lymphoma, 2014, lymphoma, in 2019, prostate cancer in 2020, then diagnosed with lymphoma again. And this was surgery to remove the lymphoma tumor. Wow. And I woke up in the recovery room having an emotional breakdown. And I told the nurse that I was done and I was giving up the fight and I wasn't going to fight my cancer battle anymore because I knew what was coming. And I'd had a great life and I was satisfied with all that and I was going to move on. And so smartly called in a pastor and we spent an hour and a half working through all the reasons why I should fight, why I should not give up. And those were fight for my family, fight for my friends, fight for my work, which was meaningful, and then fight to make God proud. And so at the end of that conversation, this pastor leans in and goes nose to nose. She goes, Bill, I want you to do one more thing for me. I want you to turn your pain into purpose and write a book to help others. Now I was coming off of fentanyl and morphine, so I was in a pretty bad shape, mentally anyway. But I said yes. And then I'm like, now what do? I got to write a book. And so I reached out to a publisher And the CEO of the publisher calls me and says, Bill, we want to do this book. I asked her why, and she just lost one of her best friends to breast cancer. She said, this is a book that was needed for her, so let's do it for others. And so that's how the book happened.
Wow. There you go. When did you first get cancer? How old were you?
Yeah, I was 42 years old. Yeah, when I got cancer the first time, and I'm 64 now. And yeah, thank you. My lymphoma is one of the 61 types of lymphoma that's not curable. So I get in remission, and then it comes back. And so this is what I'm dealing with. And however, the longer I live, Chris, the longer I will live, because they're making advances so quickly in the cancer world that each day, each week, each month, each year that goes on that I'm in remission works to my benefit.
There you go. I mean, we've had lots of people on the show that talk about artificial intelligence, AI, and how, there's a chance that it could solve something. It solved something the other day, or at least there was a claim to it, that was some really, scientists or mathematicians had struggled for decades to solve this puzzle, and AI just went right to it and did it and solved something. And I don't remember what it was, but hopefully that would happen. Yeah. I mean, they say we're the last generation to die, really, when it comes down to it. The newer generations, they'll probably just have replaceable parts and stuff. You just 3D print yourself a new arm and stuff.
Yeah, it's remarkable. AI is already making a difference in the cancer world, and it's happening exponentially. But already, a lot of places are reading the radiology reports with AI, and they're using the radiologist to kind of confirm it. But the AI can see details that the human might not be able to pick up. So it's already making a difference there. Drug development. I mean, Chris, I'm hoping there's a time when my cancer comes back that I will get a custom treatment plan, based upon my particular cancer and the genetic makeup of the tumor. So I think we'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but maybe not as long as we think.
Yeah. I mean, that would be great. I mean, if the AI could be the advancement that compresses that timeline to make it happen far sooner than, I mean, a lot of these things we've been working on this time. So AI's got, a great shot at it. Talk to me about why is it important to advocate for yourself? I haven't dealt with the health system much. My mom and sister have. I've dealt with the veterinarian health system with my dogs when they had cancer, and advocating for them. I've had to do a lot of it. Why is it important for you to advocate for yourself? Can't you just trust the doctors and nurses and hope everything works out fine?
Oh boy, that's a big answer. Yeah, the answer is yes, not always. And so I learned my lesson the hard way back when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer when I was 42. And I listened to my primary care physician and went to the oncologist he sent me to, which was a for-profit oncologist. And I did not get a second opinion. I went in and had my entire thyroid removed. I went through a massive amount of radiation. The radiation I received in pill form was the same radiation that came out of Chernobyl, iodine 131. And so I got zapped pretty good. So that same for-profit oncologist told me a year later my thyroid cancer was back. That didn't add up because I didn't have a thyroid. It had all been taken out, and what was left was nuked. And so I thought, wow, this is not adding up. They're prescribing more radiation. I better go to a big high-volume non-for-profit cancer center, which was MD Anderson in Houston, which is number one in the world cancer center. Like, yeah, Bill, you not only maybe we wouldn't have taken out your whole thyroid if you come to us for a second opinion, for sure, we probably wouldn't have given you that amount of radiation. And then 2008, I'm back at MD Anderson with stage 3 lymphoma. We'll never know for certain, but that amount of radiation I received for the thyroid is one of those. So I learned firsthand that, your life depends on owning your own journey. Getting that second opinion, going to high volume cancer center is pretty important, but it's counterintuitive to a lot of people that you trust your locals and you do what they tell you to do. But this is a case where your body is a Ferrari and you can't take them to a Chevy dealership. As we just talked about, cancer is really nuanced, and you've got to go to the experts that deal with a high volume with your type of cancer. And those are always going to be the NCI, National Cancer Institute accredited cancer centers, which are found at cancer.gov. And so I've leaned in on that, and I have owned my own journey, even to the point that at MD Anderson, Chris, in 2008, for my stage 3 lymphoma, they prescribed a protocol, a chemotherapy called R-CHOP. And I said, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? But now I'd learned to advocate for myself. And I'm like, look, you're MD Anderson. I can't afford to lose my hair. I love my hair, and I was in sales at the time, and I needed to go on sales calls, and I didn't want the conversation to be about me. Where's your hair? I wanted to be about them so I could get the sale done. And they came back to me and are like, give us some time. So it was about 2.5 hours. I almost missed my flight back here to Tampa. Wow. And they said, hey, look, we're going to give this thing a try. You've never heard of it. I'm like, what is it? They said, it's called immunotherapy. And in 2008, nobody had heard of it.
Yeah.
And like, we're going to give this a shot. I'm like, what if it doesn't work? So then you'll lose your hair. We'll go back to the other treatment. You've only lost some time. And so by saying no, I was one of the early benefactors, patient number 23, for immunotherapy for my particular type of cancer. And it worked. And so this is a case of saying no. I was able to continue to work. I was able to continue to sell. I got to keep my hair. And, they saved me with immunotherapy because I challenged the doctors. They took it as a challenge, not as being critical, and came back with the answer.
That is awesome. And plus, I think when you advocate for yourself, you feel a little bit more empowered, right? You've got what you're pushing in the book is a mindset, how to have a mindset of how to approach this and a game plan, right? So you might feel more empowered that way than the disempowering thing of, well, you have cancer. You're like, what do I do now? And they're like, I don't know, go home and figure it out, I guess.
It's a great point. Yeah. I mean, that is a great point. And I treat it like my jobs, right? I come up with goals and objectives. I come up with a business plan, and then I execute it. And you're so right. When you're owning your journey and you're not depending on others, all of a sudden, you have control over it. And this is what I deal with every day, right? Because my cancer will come back. So what can I do? Instead of moping about it, I can do what I can do to prevent it from coming back, which is my diet is ridiculously clean. I exercise, deep breathing, grounding, all this socialization, all those things that I do so that when my cancer comes back, I'm in prime physical condition to deal with it. And that has helped me along the way, which is one reason why I got, to through number 5, is because I go into this treatment in great shape. So much so, one time I was alarmed up and they turned off the chemotherapy because my heart rate was at 42. They paged the doctor. The doctor says, no. He's an Ironman. His resting heart rate's 42. So just change the alarm.
It's 42. Is that during the Ironman? When did you start doing the? Well, let me stay on this for a second on the advocate thing. This is why it's so important. I remember one of my dogs came down with anal sac cancer, and I remember going in the doctor, and they go, "Yeah, we felt it up inside her, and it's really bad. There's nodules up in there." And they go, "Here's what you want to do. Is you take and just go home and to give it the 3 days, take some pictures and stuff and come back, and we're gonna call it." And I was like, okay. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I went home, and you just felt so helpless, and I was like, what can I do? And the day creeped by, and I just realized, I'm like, they don't have any answers for me. They're just calling it. And I go, I need to find out, what is anal cancer? What are options? What are people doing? And so I started digging through the internet, and I'm going to start sounding kind of like a conspiracy theorist here if I'm not careful. And I did my own research, and but I technically did. And I said, well, if my dog's got I came upon this thing called the raw diet for dogs and that had cancer. And basically the diet was cut out their sugar, the cancer hates fat, and feed them a raw meat diet, which is, they're carnivores. That's what they technically eat in the wild. They're not sitting around eating fucking oats, people. It was like some wolf going, give me some oats. And so I put her on that diet, and I didn't take her in for the 3 days. And she lived for a year and a half, or no, a year and 3/4, almost 2 years.
Wow.
And actually the arthritis is kind of what killed her in the end. It was kind of a combination of both. But I remember feeling so disempowered. And then I got this knowledge, and then I'm like, well, if she's got a death sentence, she's going to die by the end of the week. Fuck it, let's try this and see what happens. She wasn't eating at the time. And so, they were like, oh, dogs don't eat. That's it's the end. They're trying to wrap it up. That's what they do in the wild, wrap it up. And it turns out the reason she wasn't eating is because the food I was giving her was sugar and poison. And somehow their systems know it. Yeah. So, yeah. But, yeah, that whole advocating for yourself and feeling empowered, I think it puts you in a better mindset position, other than just being like, I'm going to die, it's over. And I think once you get that depressive thing, that actually depresses your system and makes it harder to live, I think.
It's that is really well said. And, I struggle sometimes when I'm walking into the cancer clinic a day or two before, get quiet, pensive, get very kind of into my own head. But once I get in the parking lot and as I'm walking to the front door, because I'm doing everything I can and I'm confident with my decisions, it switches into my business mode, and I can walk in there remarkably with few emotions. It's like, okay, game on. Let's get it done. Let's focus. This is my journey. Let's do what I can and do what we can, because it really is a team effort. And yeah, it's a game changer for the attitude. And the attitude does make a difference. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. So it sounds like the discipline I have to do when I go to the gym. Let's get in there and let's just do it. And I know you don't want to do it. It doesn't feel great, but you got to do it. But
that's a great analogy on sports because, and to get big and strong like you are, Chris, you've got to do it one rep at a time. It's the same way with beating cancer. You got to take it. You got to take a rep at a time, a step at a time, a day at a time, and over time, it makes a difference.
Yep. When you're two-fisting those McDonald's hamburgers, you just you keep them going like this, up and down. Quarter pounder with cheese. There you go. It's spelled about the onions. Anyway, so now at what point did you begin, you did Ironman, you did a whole mess of training and stuff like this. Tell us about that journey and why it's important to survival and getting people to live longer and survive cancer.
Yeah, I've always been pretty health conscious, always been exercising a lot. But in 2008, I almost died with my treatment. And that kind of woke me up to the severity of what I was dealing with. And so I redoubled my efforts after 2008 to take good care of myself. I worked for the Ironman Triathlon, and I'd sold the title sponsorship to a race in Houston, the Memorial Hermann Ironman, Texas. And so I decided to go ahead and race that race. In 2011 to prove to my kids that no matter what happens in your life, if you set goals and you're focused, that you can accomplish really special things. Anything is possible. So that was really a statement to my kids that despite what I'd been through in 2008 and almost dying, that I could come back from that and do, arguably one of the world's hardest endurance events. Yeah. And so they learned from me while I was going through it. I tore my ligament in my foot about 16 weeks before the race. So I would take the cast off and swim. I would take the cast off and bike, and I couldn't run for training. So I knew I was going to go into the marathon part because it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a marathon. I was going to go into the marathon part, a little bit undertrained. And somebody asked me when I was transitioning from the bike to the run, are you going to finish? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why? I said, I got a plan. They're like, what's your plan? I said, I'm going to run 1 mile at a time, 26 times, because each aid station was 1 mile apart. Yeah. So I'm going to eat the elephant one bite at a time. And by the way, that's also translated to the cancer journey, eat it one bite at a time. And so I just kept that going. That really positioned me well for 2014 when the cancer came back and I was in such good shape. And I'm like, I'm going to keep it going. Now the prostate cancer has taken me off the bike. That's not very comfortable. And so I'm not doing triathlons anymore, but I am leaning into playing a ton of tennis.
Okay, there you go. Have you tried that pickleball? A lot of people
Yeah, I love
like
it.
the pickleball too.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's fun. As long as you're not the neighbor, it's fun.
Funk.
I can't-
Yeah, a lot of people like that. But no, for you to take on the Ironman triathlete and on top of all the things you're doing, man, I mean, I'd just be sitting at home being like, but why is health so important? I mean, I imagine you have a nutrition routine and everything else.
Yeah, I do. It's again trying to keep the body in as good a shape as I can to prevent the cancer from coming back as long as I can to be ready when it comes back. But yeah, my nutrition wasn't always great, Chris, and my wife joked it took me getting cancer multiple times before I finally cleaned it up. And so I wound up hiring a nutritionist and a dietitian to try to coach me on this. And particularly, when I was going through the chemotherapy, everything changes, sense of taste, what you can stomach and nausea and all those kind of things. So I needed help on that. And then I needed help. Now how do I rebuild my immune system? Because my immune system got wiped out to basically zero. And so I had to rebuild that multiple times. And so I had to rebuild it each time. And so I started leaning in on diet, in particular, of course, exercise to try to reboot not just the immune system, but just to keep me healthier. And it's worked.
Mm-hmm. Did you run into challenges? Were you in the hospitals during COVID and stuff?
Yes, significantly. So my chance of surviving COVID with my particular type of cancer was only 49%.
Wow.
And so I'm in the hospital during the biggest time of COVID.
Oh, wow.
And I'm deathly afraid of getting it because it would, a 50-50 chance. And so I had to wear a mask. I basically spent a year and a half pretty isolated from people because it took about a year and a half to 2 years to get my immune system built up enough to where I could be around people. So it was a little bit lonely, but I live here in Florida, so I could still do stuff outside. So eat at restaurants outside, eat on our patio outside almost every day of the year. So it was okay. It's kind of a couple years that I largely forget.
Yeah. You don't want to get that COVID. I got that for the first time in September of last year. The evil fucking thing, man. Just evil.
Yeah, I was lucky. I didn't get it until they had the antiviral Paxlovid out, and so I had an arrangement with the doctors that as soon as I tested positive, I could get it. So I did, and I was in pretty bad shape, but it saved my butt.
Well, I'm glad you got through it because that thing is nasty, man. That thing, I never had a cold like that in my life. That was something else. It was just trying to fill my lungs for 2 weeks. I think 10 days. No, 14 days. 14 days. It was just trying to fill my lungs with garbage. So now you do, on top of the book, you do consulting. People can get involved with you through your website. Tell us about some of the offerings you have there for people.
Yeah, so I do healthcare consulting, particularly for firms that are trying to lean into the cancer space, because I am one of the world's biggest experts on cancer from the patient perspective. And then I also coach and counsel a tremendous number of cancer patients that are going through the journey. I'm not a doctor. I don't give medical advice, but I can give great advice on a lot of areas related to the cancer journey. So I'm easily accessible. It's bill@billcpotts.com, or you can go to billcpotts.com and connect with me that way. But the thing I did not expect about the book when it came out, I knew it would give people hope just by the title of the book, from a 5-time cancer survivor. But what I didn't expect, Chris, was that it would save lives. And so I'm hearing back from patients that the advice I give in the book has helped save their life because they got a second opinion, things like that. And so it's interesting how that comment from the pastor, turn your pain into purpose, has turned out to be true. And has really changed the trajectory of my life in a way I never would have guessed. And honestly, getting cancer this many times hasn't been that much fun, but it's I can see now that I can turn it into my purpose, which is kind of cool.
And you can help save others or help make others' lives better for the time that they're here. This is one of the things about being an entrepreneur is you discover something you can innovate for yourself or how you can help other people. And of course, the beauty is of capitalism is, that you can, if you can find a way to serve other people and help other people, you can benefit direct proportion to that. But the giving is the most important part. And so, having people, you do feel so much empowered. I've got probably some other stories, and I'm sure you do too. But I just remember there was another time where one of my dogs just had a growth lump, this little growth they get, but she got it between her organs. There's like shit that can grow between your organs, and it won't get affected by penicillin and stuff. So we had this growth, and I was literally taking her to 3 different doctors because I was doing what you mentioned, the backup of having other people, and one guy was right, and he was like this back alley Chinese guy, and he just was. And he spoke broken English. He was always getting in trouble because his records were never right. But he was like renowned in the area as the honest, straight up best vet. And like, you just have to you want to punch him half the time because he has horrible bedside manner because he just barks at you. If you ever heard, I don't know, Chinese General, maybe in a movie. Yeah. And he just had the worst. But he was cheap as hell. And on top of that, he was right. And out of the 3 different doctors I was going to, he was the right one. And the other 2 wanted me to put my dog down again. And so just having the empowerment of advocating for yourself, getting knowledge, getting second opinions, all this stuff can make you feel more empowered. I remember when I read up on all this stuff on cancer with my dog that I mentioned earlier, I just sat down and I'm like, okay, well, if this is our battle, I'm going to learn everything I can. What do I have to lose, right? I'm not going to give up.
For sure.
And, she's still coming to me for treats and wagging her tail, and she's not eating. Let's find out. And we put her on an all-meat, high-fat diet. She started eating again like a pig. And like the doctors were just like, well, this is crazy, man. This dog's still alive. How is this possible? And I'm like, I'm giving her the tools to fight. And so, part of health and stuff. But, once I get out of kick the smoking habit, that kind of helped with the cancer. Anyway, I'm just doing dog jokes. Anyway, Bill, as we go out, final thoughts for people to onboard with you and reach out to you, et cetera, pick up the book.
Yeah, you can buy the book anywhere books are sold around the world. Amazon seems to be the place to go, but you can go to Barnes & Noble and pick it up. This is a book that if you don't have cancer, but a family or friend going through cancer, it's a great book for them. If you are the friend or family of a cancer patient, it is a great book for you because my wife and kids write about some tips for the friends and family that are going through the journey. And yeah, reach out to me at billcpost.com. All my socials are on there. Our socials are on there. And if you need some support or help, I'm happy to do it.
That's so great, man. And mindset makes all the difference. Like just feeling empowered. I think, I think there's research that's been done that if you stay positive after getting a deadly disease like this, it makes a difference in your survival rate. I think they did one of the Jews during the Nazi encampments and stuff, and they found that the people who, I don't know if they kept a positive attitude, but they planned well, they moved well, they didn't give up. Those are the people that help survive or something. It was a tendency to their ability to survive. I think it makes all the difference when the human heart and mindset is more positive. I think the body responds and listens to that. I remember there was a story of Neil Peart from the band Rush. His wife his daughter had died in a freeway collision where she rolled over in a snowstorm into the Meridian and been killed. And it was their only child. And the mother went in this deep depression, just super deep depression. She couldn't go out of it. And within a month or 2, she had cancer. And she was dead in 6 months. Just like that. And some of that you attribute to depression and giving up and stuff. And, it's one of those sad facts of life, but yeah, fight the good fight. Every day is a day above ground.
Yeah. That's a great point because the cancer's really taught me better how to live. And so, as we wrap up the podcast, some of the key lessons that I've learned from almost dying more than once, because through my journey was to really live in the present. Because for all of us, each day is a gift. And for me, that's particularly resonates because tomorrow I could wake up and my cancer could be back. So I really live a more deliberate life. I stress about a lot different things that I did before. I generally am pretty low key about things because everything seems to be small stuff in my life that used to stress me out. I spend more time with friends and family. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned, and sometimes it's hard as a guy, but it's for those folks that you love, is to tell them that you love them. And if you have relationships that are broken, try to fix them. But once I started telling my friends that I love them and they told me back that they love me, it really was magical and one of the great blessings that came out of my cancer fight.
That is awesome. What a great support system. Even as dudes, we started telling each other, all my friends that are spread out across internationally, that I'd known forever and hung out with, we couldn't hang out with anymore because we used to hang out at a lot of the big events like CES show and NAB show and other big shows. And so we would always hang out, have a few drinks, a party. But, we loved seeing each other. And it was really wild during COVID. And we started to, as dudes, which, we're not really big on that. I love you, dude. How's it going, man? Don't go up to people in the locker room and the gym and do that, folks. But we started saying that to each other, and it was an incredible support mechanism. And part of it was because we didn't know if you were going to see each other the next day. They were taking people right into those wards, and you couldn't hold people's hands as they would leave. But I'm glad you're doing this journey, man. I'm glad you're helping people. I mean, that's the beauty of stories and life and the human condition of hope, is bringing hope to others and lifting other people up. And the fact that your purpose, man, you got to live forever, man. You got a lot of people to help. Cancer is a big thing.
Thank you. I appreciate you and appreciate you having me on your show. You're delightful.
I'm delightful. There you go. Well, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it. And give us the .com one last time as we go out so people have it.
Yeah, Bill C. Potts, POTTS.com.
There you go. Thanks, Bill. Thank you. And order of the book wherever fine books are sold. Up for the Fight: How to Advocate for Yourself as You Battle Cancer, from a 5-time survivor. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTok and all those crazy places on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next